pretty likely that Abby and Libby's killer is watching the news, perhaps even their families. It's a fact, but a very creepy thought that most child killers are people their families know, neighbors, people from their schools, or even relatives. It's a fact, but a very creepy thought that most child killers are people their families know, neighbors, people from their schools, or even relatives.
And so that if people ask, all of the family members in the Delphi case been cleared?
Again, that gets into the investigative strategy of Delphi, and I'm not going to go there.
Well, you're saying in this situation, I just want to, we want to be apples and apples.
We've received 46,000 tips, Sandra. Comparing apples to apples is appropriate, and I'll accept that. But apples to oranges, I won't. And what you're asking me is to do that. I'm not going to. They're very, very different. From the very beginning, they're very, very, very different. And, they're all, I think, we're up to around 42 or 43,000 tips.
And I get that. I'm not talking about tips. I'm just saying, have the family members in the Delphi case been cleared?
The vast majority of them have, yes.
Have the family members in the Delphi case been cleared? The vast majority of them have, yes.
We know that Becky Patty said that Cody went with her to search the day the girls went missing.
And said, Libby's not answering her phone, I don't see her. So that's when I started calling, and my daughter works with me, and she started calling, and we started texting and messaging, and about 4 o'clock we knew that's not like Libby not to answer her phone. So we're thinking, okay, what's going on?
Yeah.
At that point in time, it wasn't anything. We weren't thinking something serious at this time. And so I called Mike and said, hey, Libby's not answering her phone. They're at the trails. We're going to head over there and start looking. And he said, I'll meet you there. So my daughter went on over. Derek's there. My daughter went on over, and her partner, she called her, and she met her there. Ended up calling Kelsey at work, and she came back and started.
She left work.
She left work.
Where was she working at the time?
Dairy Queen.
Okay.
Just right in town.
Yeah.
Now, as I started out to leave, my other son come pulling up, and he says, "What are you doing?" And so I told him what was going on. So he hopped in the car with me, and we thought, okay, if they were to walk home, there's 2 ways they could have come. So we got in the car and we drove both ways, looking to see if maybe they had decided to walk home, something had happened, she lost her phone or something. We didn't see her, so we got there a little later than the others.
We don't know where Cody actually was February 13th. We know that Kelsey also said that Cody was nowhere near the bridge that day.
In Kelsey's debunking video, she said that Cody's whereabouts have been confirmed. They know where he was and who he was with, and he was nowhere near Delphi.
District 14 units, a 10-solo case, 2 missing juveniles. A 10-solo case, 2 missing juveniles. Liberty Rose Lynn German. Liberty Rose Lynn German. Date of birth 12/27/2002. 5'4", 200 pounds. Blonde and blue. Subject was last seen wearing a tie-dye shirt that is fringed at the bottom. Gray sweatpants with black writing and black shoes. Last seen at the High Bridge in Delphi, Indiana, at approximately 1300 hours on 2/13/2017.
A phone call from my grandma, freaking out because she hadn't heard from Libby. At that point, I was just kind of thinking maybe they dropped their phone and went to get it. Woke up late and planned to go to my boyfriend's house and help him clean out his truck that they were getting ready to sell. And then after we cleaned it out, he was going to go to work and I was going to wait at his house and then go to work myself.
Second juvenile, Abigail Joyce Williams. Abigail Joyce Williams, date of birth 6/23/2003. 5'4", blonde hazel, Subject was last seen wearing a gray zip-up sweatshirt and a red shirt with a red shirt under it and jeans.
Then 4:12, I got a couple calls from my grandma. I didn't hear my phone go off the first time, so the second time it went off, I knew something must have been wrong, because my grandma never calls multiple times unless she really needs something, especially if she knows that I have to go to work that day. So I picked up my phone and I called my grandma back. And the first thing she said was, "Have you heard from Libby?" And that was the hardest moment, I think, of that particular day. Before me, and there was no reason for me to go home and then come back in town. So I waited there with his sister, and like about 15 minutes before I was getting ready to leave, my phone started ringing a couple of times, and ended up being my grandma saying she hadn't heard from Libby. My dad was there to pick her up, and nobody could get a hold of her. So I ended up calling work and telling them I had to go help look for my sister. When we got to the bridge, me and Cody crossed it and looked around on that side, and we couldn't see anybody over there, nobody on the other side of the bridge. So around 5 o'clock, we ended up going to the police station and filing a missing persons report. And then it kind of went on for there. There was like a search all night. Even though it was called off, there were still people out there. And then the next morning, when the searches were put back out and everybody went out, that's when we found out that they had found them at 12:30. Yeah, so before we contacted the police, I was there. I crossed the bridge and looked on that side. And then after that, I actually went back to work and then ended up at the police station after that. That day, I remember we had woken up. Actually, I don't think Abby and Libby ever went to bed that night. They were up just giggling, laughing, doing all kinds of stuff in Libby's room, watching movies, doing arts and crafts together, whatever they could do to enjoy the night together. And that morning, they were up before me, I think, and I had to get up and get ready for work like a big kid on their day off. And I was getting ready to actually go to my boyfriend's house first. I was going to go hang out with him before I went to work. And she opens the bathroom door while I'm sitting there doing my thing. And she's like, "Kelsey, do you want to go to Highbridge? We can go hang out." I'm like, "No, I have plans today. I can't." So at first I just told her, "No, maybe another day we have off, or maybe another weekend." And a little while later, she came back and asked again, and I'm like, "Yeah, sure, I'll take you if you can find a ride home." Then after that, I'd finished, got ready, and I got in the car, told them it's time to leave, and they came out and got in, and I drove them to Highbridge, where I saw them for the last time. And Libby got out of the car and told me she loved me, and that was the last thing she ever said to me.
And explain to me what Highbridge is, the area, and if someone has
many years. It's very tall, like, you'll love it. And I was finishing up getting ready. I didn't have to be there for like 15 minutes. I had been in my boyfriend's house. I was actually sitting there. He had left for work already, and I was finishing up getting ready. I didn't have to be there for like 15 minutes, but there wasn't any reason to go back to my house, which was a little farther away, and then come back. So I just waited there with his dad and his sister. And I heard my phone ring once. The first time I wasn't super worried about it. I was getting ready. There wasn't any need to like rush to my phone. But when it started ringing several times after that, I was like, well, something must be going on. So I went over and grabbed it. And it was my grandma. She was frantic, but that wasn't really anything new. She was already that overprotective parent. So I was like, okay, what's going on? And she said, well, we haven't heard from Libby. She's not answering your phone. Your dad's there to pick her up. He's looked everywhere. He can't find them. And I'm like, okay, I'm sure it's nothing. I'm sure they're just lost or their phone died. I'll be there in 10 minutes to like help search. So at that point I called work and said, hey, my sister's missing. I can't come in. I have to help search for her. It's more important than making $7.25 an hour. So I ran back, got in my car, and went down to Highbridge, where my grandma and Tara and my dad were at. We started walking the trail to see if we could find them. At that point, we weren't super worried. Like, my grandma was freaking out, but the rest of us were like, it's going to be fine. I'm sure they just fell or their phone died and they're off adventuring in the woods somewhere and we're going to find them. They just like broke their leg or something normal happened and it's going to be all right. So we went searching. We didn't see them anywhere where I thought they would be. We didn't see them on the other side of the bridge, on the like driveway over there. So we just kept searching. We're like, they have to be here somewhere. So we kept yelling their name. Eventually me and my uncle went back across the bridge and told my grandparents they weren't anywhere. We didn't see them anywhere. So they ended up calling the police. And that night we were in the police station for a long time. Search parties were all over. There was social media posts. Everybody was out looking for them and trying to figure out where they were, what had happened. But it wasn't until the next day that we knew what happened. That day, I was out searching. We got to the bridge. My group kind of went separate ways because, like I said, the bridge is terrifying and nobody wanted to cross it. But I knew that if that's what I had to do to find them, I was crossing the bridge. So I went across with my little group of people and we searched for a while. And around 12:30, that's when they yelled up the hill that they'd found a shoe. And then eventually found the bodies a little while later.
What we do know, what took place, I know you've been involved up there with Sergeant Slocum and Sergeant Riley, the PIOs up there in Delphi, and have firsthand knowledge of what's going on and during the news release with doing the news conference with Superintendent Carter. Walk us through from what we know right now from the very beginning.
We know that one of the parents dropped off Abby and Libby. We know that one of the parents dropped off Abby and Libby. We know that one of the parents dropped off Abby and Libby. We know that one of the parents dropped off We know that one of the parents dropped off Abby and Libby. We know that one of the parents dropped off Abby and Libby. We know that one of the parents dropped off.
Kelsey German was the last family member to see the Delphi teens alive.
The morning of February 13th, 2017 was a different kind of Monday for Kelsey German. She, her sister Libby, and their friend Abby all had the day off school.
Libby and Abby had been hanging out the night before and kind of enjoying their girl time together. And I was getting up and getting ready for work, and that's when Abby and Libby decided they needed something fun to do. And so my grandma put them on chores until she was done working. And that's when they asked me to go to Highbridge.
Kelsey dropped the girls off to walk the Delphi Hills about 1 o'clock that afternoon. They were found dead the next day, brutally killed.
I run through that day every day, just kind of trying to figure out if there's something I could have done differently.
Any shots? Ever heard of them?
I wish. New information to us as of last night before everybody else, but I wish. New information to us as of last night before everybody else, but
Okay, at the conference in which the new sketch was released, there was a specific wording and talk that seemed aimed at someone in particular. Can you verify if it was actually meant for someone, obviously the suspect, but beyond that, like a particular person?
Those were comments made by me, and no, I'm not going to talk about it. I'm assuming they were comments made by me, if that's what you're referencing.
It was, yeah, I think it was the
Being in the
way
room?
you word things.
Okay,
Yep.
yeah.
Another thing, I don't know if you can talk about it now, but there's the shack was used in it. Was that on purpose?
It was.
Okay.
Have you seen the shack?
I have. I watched it twice.
You know what I mean then.
hmm Yeah. So I think one of the big rumors going on around, I guess, is that they died in the shack, or like there has to be some other meaning other than faith to it, which is something that we're trying to kind of get rid of that rumor. Trying to get rid of that rumor.
There was no shack involved. Okay? Oh. But that had a the field had a really compelling effect on me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that movie in general, the first time I watched it, and it had like zero effect on me. I just kind of sat through it and didn't think about the meaning behind it, just because I just wanted to watch it as a movie. And then the second time I went back and watched it, and I cried the entire movie. And the third time I went back and watched it, I cried even more. Kind of get rid of that rumor. And so then I read the book so that I could kind of dive deeper into it. And it actually helped me a lot with forgiveness in myself and being stronger going through it all and being able to help other people. So it's a really good movie.
It's so cool to hear you say
that. The night of the 13th, okay? How many people would you say were around searching that first night? Just
honestly, I have no idea how many people were there. I spent most of the evening at the police station because I didn't want to be down there searching at night. I'm really scared of the dark, so I went to it anyway. And then I went back the next day. So I'm sure there were a lot. I know a lot of my friends were out there looking. A lot of my family was out there. A lot of my community was out there. So I'm sure a lot of people were out there searching.
Yeah, you were there searching for a part of the time though, right?
Yeah, so before we contacted the police, I was there. I crossed the bridge and looked on that side. And then after that, I actually went back to work and then ended up at the police station after that.
Hundreds, but there was lots of people still looking into the evening.
Yeah, so there were people out there from the time we started posting it on social media that we couldn't find them. Our friends, just random people in our community, people from towns around us, all started coming in. It was covered in flashlights. Like, there was no need to worry about it being dark because there's so many people with like bright lights out there looking. I mean, they just continued to search all night, even when it was called off. There weren't any. Well, I don't know that there were any police officers out there then, but our community was still rallying around us and saying, you know, these girls are out here somewhere and we have to find them. So we're not leaving until we do.
Have you heard from anybody that says they were looking on that side over there? Because I hear that sometimes, you know.
I haven't heard from anybody that was in that exact spot. I think there might have been people over there, but it does kind of dip into a valley where they were at. So I tend to think that maybe they were over there. They just didn't go quite as far as where they were, and it was dark enough that they didn't end up stumbling upon them.
What's so striking about this? What is the thing that investigators look at and say, wow, that's the thing that's going to make this guy stand out from all the other men walking around?
It's basically just a clear picture of his face compared to what you saw down below. We've got the information out there, the pictures out there. Now we got this composite that we feel that is the same. We feel it is the same person, and we just want to make sure that people realize that that picture is this person.
During the course of this investigation, we have concluded the first sketch released will become secondary as of today. The result of the new information and intelligence over time leads us to believe the sketch, which you will see shortly, is the person responsible for the murders of these two little girls. We also believe this person is from Delphi, currently or has previously lived here, visits Delphi on a regular basis, or works here. We believe this person is currently between the age range of 18 and 40, but might appear younger than his true age. Directly to the killer, who may be in this room. We believe you are hiding in plain sight. For more than 2 years, you never thought we would shift gears to a different investigative strategy, but we have. We likely have interviewed you or someone close to you. We know that this is about power to you, and you want to know what we know. And one day, you will.
Basically, the release is issued because of all of the interest that this particular tip, amongst the hundreds, thousands of tips that we followed that there's been no interest about, because of social media, public interest, media interest, we felt that it was appropriate to give this update. The investigation continues. We continue to ask people we do believe somebody out there has information, has been fearful to come forward. The only good thing to come about all the emphasis put on this one particular tip is that it's heightened the awareness again about the murders of Abigail and Liberty. So we encourage people, if you know something, go to the website, call the 844-800 number, submit your tip, help us solve this case.